So welcome. Wow, how wonderful to see everyone in the room. I think we need to applause all of ourselves right now for being back in the room. My name is Russ Lewis and I coordinate ACON's ageing programs. It's just so nice after almost 2 years to have our first face-to-face event. So I'm really pleased that everyone's in the room. Yeah, absolutely. There we go. I'm not going to hang around here too long because that's what Bernie's going to do for us. There we go. Yep. Great. Good. I do want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. So just a couple of housekeeping things to start with. The bathrooms are through the far door and then directly on the left. There are some bathrooms downstairs as well. We do have to try and be a little bit sort of mindful in these sort of COVID-ish restrictions. I know that everyone's registered, which is great. There's lots of hand sanitizer around the room. If you need any assistance with anything, there's lots of lovely volunteers here today to help you out. When it comes to lunch, lunch will be up the back, but we're going to try and bring it all to you because it's all individually portioned, rather than everyone being up at the table together. The same with the coffee and tea table. Just be mindful not to be all bunched up there together. Good that we're in the room, but just be a little bit mindful still at this stage. What else? I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end of the event about 2 more events coming up before the end of the financial year, which is good. We've got a combined women's project and love project event on the 5th of June. And then we have an event for older trans and gender diverse people at the end of June. But I'll speak a little bit more to those at the end. I want to really sort of thank all of our wonderful speakers today. Having the courage and the bravery to sit up there, share your stories, I really, really appreciate it. I think it's wonderful. And Bernie Hobbs, who's going to be hosting the day, I'm really excited to work with Bernie for the first time. Bernie is a former ABC presenter, and I think from the very first time we spoke a couple of months ago, I just had a good feeling that the sort of, I'm probably preempting, but a good feeling that sort of Bernie was going to be able to lead this conversation in a really nice way. So yeah, thank you, Bernie. Yeah. What else do I have to say? I'll speak a little bit more, but we have 3 members of the advisory group. So every event that we do really has some advisory people from the community to help me sort of process and organise and keep me in place and really deliver events that we feel that the community are really asking for. So everything we do is really based on the needs and preferences of the community. It's not about me saying, look, I want to do this or I want to do that. I try to listen as much as I can to the community. So we do have Colleen up the back, and we have Trevor, I think, somewhere, and we have Roz, and they're all, and Joe, all from the advisory group. So I want to give them a round of applause now too for... I want to thank also the people that are live streaming the event. The first time the Love Project's done that, so I really hope... we had about 30 or 40 registered to do that, so I'm looking forward to seeing if those people have all logged on. But that's really exciting. It just means that we can extend what we're doing in the room right across the state, right across Australia. So with that said, I'm going to hand over to Bernie and just enjoy the day. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Russ. Thank you so much to everyone who's come here this morning, and I think we should all give a very special hello to our live stream audience, just because I always wanted to be on Romper Room, and say hello to the folks at home, and there's another camera over there catching our other side. Thank you. Thank you so much. I too want to acknowledge the Gadigal people whose land we're meeting on today, and that the land was never ceded. And I'm absolutely rapt as a newly identifying older lesbo to be here as part of the Love Project. Is everyone feeling the love here this morning? That's so much love, I'm overwhelmed. We'll be feeling more and more love as we hear more and more stories. I'm just a bit worried about the people down the back because of the signage, which cannot be moved for sponsorship reasons. If you're worried about not seeing everything here, maybe find another place a bit further over, although I do see you've got a nice warm spot, and bears do like to soak in the sun. So, good, stay. Yeah. So, what I was really interested in today, when Russ first contacted me about it, was that it's about older queers living visibly engaged, and also that it's based on storytelling. And I think all of us inherently love to hear people's stories. All of us are inherently a bit shit scared about telling our own. So it's great that we've got 5 people here. We should have 6. But Seymour Hardy will no doubt make an exceptional entrance when she eventually arrives. Oh yeah, we've primed that queue. Get up here, your seat's nice and warm. Oh no, please, pull focus a little longer, Seymour. No, come on up, please.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, not at all. You had to travel, oh, okay, sure. So you're in the naughty seat. Like all stories, we're going to have a beginning, a middle and an end today. Hopefully the end isn't the actual end of our lives as living older, visibly and engaged. But we're going to start with hearing from each of our speakers just a bit about who they have been, and then we'll look at how they're living now, and then we're going to stop for lunch. Now, like you, at any community event, I'm always a bit watching the clock because no one wants a late lunch. Plus, the parking here is so brutally hard line that I've got to move my car at 12:20. So we will be cutting for lunch very much on time at 12:15. Okay, so we'll just get the good news out of the way. But in the meantime, in that first hour, we're going to be hearing from our 6 very generous speakers, their story of how they came to be, or what their involvement in the community, or whatever, what their story has been in the past, and then what they're doing, how they're living now, how they're feeling engaged, and then a little later we'll hear that wisdom of the elder stuff after lunch, what their thoughts are for the future. So I'm going to do the world's quickest introductions because you've got those lovely sheets with everyone's story on them there. I'll start with Suman Lahiry, and because I have the mind of an older lesbian, I remember, this is literally what I remember from the meeting we had 3 weeks ago. I haven't looked anything else up. So Schumann is a poet, an academic. He's travelled down from Newcastle. He runs a poetry group for queers online and in person, and it's available to people across Australia. So, and he's got some merch to flog, so he will be holding books up at various stages. Jessica-Su Tang is like me, ABC, but a different kind of ABC, which you'll hear about a bit more down the track. And Jessica she's a beautiful storyteller. She's also really good at keeping it to time. So she's going to demonstrate to everyone else how to keep down to 4 minutes. She's promised me that, and I will sing her off stage if she breaks that promise. Tom Hatfield, hey, who's in charge here? Latecomer, thank you. Tom Hatfield grew up in California, moved to Australia with a bit of a midlife crisis and a lovely boyfriend in 1985. You are still together. Yes. That's insane. But, lovely, but still insane. It's got to be some kind of record. You've got your whole story that you'll tell us, but you've been living here, you've been very much community and theatre involved in all of that time. So great story coming from you. Gail Hewison, anyone who is a responsible lesbian feminist knows Gail as an absolute flag-bearing member of the community, apart from being a 78er. Gail and her sisters ran the feminist bookshop in Leichhardt for all of its life. I'm an irresponsible lesbian, so I never went there, but I think I met you at Tongue Twister once. Anyway, which was, Roy Starkey's worked as a nurse, as a counsellor, been very community involved for a long time, has been involved with ACON in the past. In fact, many of us here have been involved with ACON in the past. Roy retired and went to Southeast Asia and then came back to the Northern Rivers, where you can pretty obviously tell he's an old hippie. But a stylish one. You're bringing a little, bit of schmick to Lismore. So Roy, obviously, long story, but will be kept to 4 minutes. Unlike me, it seems I'm the only one who can't rein myself in. Seymour, okay. Seymour Hardy has been an incredible photographer. Took the first photo or cover shoot for the Star Observer when it first launched all those years ago. Seymour's been a photographer documenting the community for a really long time and a freelancer as well, a creative, lived down at Clovelly for a very long time but has retired, is that what we're calling it? Sort of retired, semi-retired to the Central Coast. And the traffic, let's not underestimate how bad that traffic is, which is probably why you were late this morning. No, but you've got your own reason, which you'll share with us in just a moment. So that's it. Here are our 6 storytellers. All identify as older, queer, is that right? Yeah, absolutely. All embrace being older and queer. All visibly engaged. Yeah, yes. All right. And Schumann, you're not really answering. Some of us are respecting our Fifth Amendment rights to silence or something, I'm not sure. But we'll get to you in a minute. Now, as I said, we're starting with our stories of how we became who we are. So we're going to have 4 minutes each. Jessica is the only one who has promised she can keep to that time, so she is going to demonstrate the 4-minute rule right now, even though she's a galactic scale storyteller. Jessica, your story of the beginning of you, of how you came to be this revered older queer. And your time starts now. Oh, give it up for Jessica. Jessica-Su Tang.
Thank you. Is there anyone out there that's got a 4-minute clock?
Yes, I do, in fact.
Well, you just put your hand up when you want me to stop.
Doing it. It's 15
Okay.
seconds gone now.
So where did my story start? I think when I was born. But it really didn't blossom until 2009 is when January, became Jessica. And it's been just over 10 years. So the journey's been wonderful. It's been... So, what I tell people is that if you're not happy today, what are you waiting for? So live in the moment. So with where my beginnings, I think magical moments happen when you're authentic. So when there was a casting call for a NAB ad, I was late in replying, but I was still able to audition. And I only ever saw the ad once, but to my credit, I became the poster girl for NAB. If you want to look it up, you can find it on the net, or I can show you a picture of it on my phone. And so how did I get that gig? And it was just being totally authentic. So I'm sit down in front of the camera and they ask, "Who are you?" And what did I say? I said, "I'm Jeffrey, but I prefer to be called Jessica." I think I had them then. And then just let the story unfold. So don't hide, because if you're authentic, there's no need to hide. And just speak your truth. And that's probably nearly 4 minutes.
No, it's not. But I also, Jessica, I remember you saying when we met earlier, or remember hearing when we met earlier, that you travelled to the United States on your passport, which did not say Jessica once you were Jessica. How did that happen? Or how did that go?
2009 I transitioned. 2011, I went 59 days in the States. And I had to decide. My passport wasn't what I look like today. It was actually a crew cut, of all things. And it said male. And it said Jeffrey. And so I went down to the consulate and asked them if I presented like this at the border, what would happen? And she said, if it was me, nothing. And I said, so it depends on the person you get on the day, how they feel. And so I did. I just went as Jessica, travelling on a male passport with Jeffrey. Actually, my declaration, I got used to signing Jessica, so actually my declaration had the wrong signature on it, but he didn't even notice, which was fortunate, because looking at all the customs agents, I said, I hope I don't get that one. And I did. So be careful what you say. Even though it's not a wish, it still comes true. So your word is how you create your world. So what you say in your world is your creation. So all I can say, if you're having a world that's full of love, then I think most of your language would be around love. And that's nearly 4 minutes now.
It is, but I reckon we've got 20 seconds for one more quick question. You said about living authentic. Do you feel that in the life before you became Jessica, do you feel you were living authentically in that previous life?
Definitely not. No. Until you find out who you are, then you can't live authentically. You have to ask the questions, and the journey is inward through outward experiences.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jessica. That was so 4 minutes, Martian minutes, but 4 minutes regardless. Roy, I know you're having a chat now, but I think we're going to move the microphone down to you if you're ready to regale us with your story.
Oh, regale. That's a high
Share.
bar.
No, keep the bar low. There's nothing but love here in the audience. Okay, forgot the crowd. Yep. Keep the bar wherever you want it, Roy.
Absolutely, thank you.
A little bit higher with the microphone, thank you. Yep.
I'd like to acknowledge the original inhabitants of the land that we meet on today as well, and acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging. But I also want to acknowledge members of the LGBTI community. We have lived through, to get here, great social change. We also experienced police brutality, legislative discrimination, and rejection and stigma in a lot of cases. And I think the greatest thing that my father ever said to me was during the Vietnam War, and I was robbed of the chance to become a conscientious objector because my birth date did not come out of the barrel. And so I was a little bit peed, and I went home and I was really a bit upset, and my father called me a pinky poofter, which I thought was pretty high praise and a recognition. He wasn't telling me anything I didn't already know. And from that moment on, I guess I was I must have been 20 at that time, but earlier on I had been out without knowing what out was. I was just me. My first professional career was nursing, and I trained under some of the hardest women and the cruelest, I have to say. How they ever thought they were looking after patients, and they did have compassion, but they were hard on us. And training as a nurse in those days as a male and being gay was really, really, really difficult. Not a lot of support from the hierarchy, but certainly a lot of support from my peers. And I can remember coming back from a Vietnam War demonstration, and one of my charge nurses called me in, charge nurses in those days, and they wore stiff veils. And there I was called in, and what was I doing at that demonstration against the war with those pufters and dykes because I was with people from Camp Inc. And I thought, how do you know about this and why was I there? I subsequently found out that they were looking at a way so that they could get me out of nursing. They didn't succeed. And I went on afterwards and did my MIDI, and I did psych nursing as well, which led me and took me around the world. And it built resilience. And I figured if I could get out of the public hospital system, you can survive almost anything. But it was really good because it gave me resilience, it gave me a background, and taught me to, without confronting people, just to stand up for yourself and to use your term, to be authentic. And to recognise that there was humanity out there, that if you were resilient, you were authentic, and you were upfront, you could almost tackle anything. And that's been a lesson in my life. And I've worked in the funeral industry, I've worked in prisons, I've worked for ACON, which was really great, which is how I met Russ, so thank you, Russ. But I've built my life on the shoulders of other people who came before me who don't experience and haven't lived long enough to experience the freedom that we have today. And I think we have to continue, as we age, to become advocates not only for ourselves, but for everybody else around us, irrespective of what their gender might be, how they identify, or what their politics are. We have to advocate for ourselves, and we have to mentor younger people coming up. And I think that we need to keep our history alive. And so I'm speaking from a really privileged position, I think, white, male, educated. And I think we need to recognise the privilege that we live with. And that's brought me into retirement eventually, but it's a long journey in between. And I think I might be just about...
Yep, just about a minute over. But
so thank you for letting me bore you.
No, not at all. We're getting some common themes here about authenticity and the fact that you were feeling that you knew yourself so well at such a young age to be so politically active and engaged and be one of the leaders in our...
It was never a conscious thought, and I never thought I'd be a leader. When I was going back through my history, because I sit on the ministerial advisory, and I had to go back through my history, and I thought, oh, you've actually done a few things in your life.
Yeah.
Maybe you've made a change, and if you've made a change in one person's life, then that's been worthwhile. You've actually assisted somebody else, and I think that that's the message we need to carry, and sometimes that's hard.
Yeah. But I think that's beautiful, and the leadership is all about how we impact on other people and our environment around us. It's not being someone in a position of power necessarily. So
who wants celebrity?
Thanks so much, Roy. And can we just pass over to Gail to hear your story, which is similar kind of vintage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Probably.
Gail Hewison. Let's welcome Gail.
Hello, everyone. 4 minutes is a bit of a challenge.
I know, sorry.
When we're sitting up here with the years that we've got behind us, but I'll do my best. And I won't start from the very beginning.
And Gail, if you can just hold it a bit closer to your mouth.
Oh,
thanks.
okay.
Yep, thank you. And a bit below, sorry.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, can you hear okay? Okay.
Thanks.
I came out as a lesbian.
And sorry, Gail, if you can point it more towards you. Sorry, because I'm thinking of the people at home. Yep.
I came out as a lesbian and a feminist in the mid-70s. I won't tell you about how I got to that spot, but that's where I got. And it was a very exciting time, and I found friends and immediately became an activist. And I think I'd always been the sort of person who was a bit of a fighter for what's not fair. I can remember as a kid, oh, that's not fair, that's not fair. So I became a feminist and found a lot of things in life for women that were not fair. And I got involved in the women's liberation movement and with the gay liberation movement. So that meant that a few years later, I was at the first Mardi Gras, and I was one of the 52 people who was arrested. That was really...
Yeah.
That was really just a matter of luck, really. That, you know, there was 1,000 of us there, and a few of us got picked up, and it wasn't at all pleasant. But I think from that time on, my activism intensified, and as it did in the whole of the movement, so many things happened for us in from 1978 onwards. So many. We started making organisations and acting on our own behalf, and so that in time led me to purchasing the feminist bookshop with my sisters. I had a very dear aunt who died, lived in Adelaide, and she had a little house which she left to me and my sisters, and we sold it and we used the proceeds of that, just enough to buy the bookshop. And that put us and put me into really into a place where I was very much in a central place of the women's and the gay movement, because we were known as a friendly, supportive information centre, really, and a lot of people came to us for information and where to go and what to do. In fact, one of my friends said to me ages ago, before we had the World Wide Web, we had the feminist bookshop, because we made it our business to know what was on, you know, where you could go to meet people, where you could, you know, the pubs to go to, the clubs to go to, the demonstrations to go to, all of the activities. Anybody who came with a query, we prided ourselves on, we'll get you there. We'll find something for you.
Bring your queries unto us, should have been the banner. Yeah.
We were also, we also specialised in areas of social issues like domestic violence, addiction recovery, child abuse. So we reached out far beyond the women's community and also far beyond the gay community, but we were there for a lot of people with social issues, and of course a lot of our queer community had those same issues. We were probably the first place in Sydney, our first bookshop that started stocking books on transgender issues, and the transgender people knew that they would be welcome and treated with respect. And to tell you the truth, at that time when we started that, there were people who didn't approve of what we were doing. So I think there was a few people women who even boycotted the bookshop because of that involvement. But being a feminist to me means, you know, I fight for whatever is not fair, and for what is right. So that was the feminist bookshop. Well, that was 30 years of the best and most rewarding work that I've ever been involved in, which just had me very happy in my life. I have been in a relationship with my partner for 31 or 32 years. She's sitting there. And we got married in 2019. It was just the two of us with two witnesses and a celebrant, and we didn't do the big you know, the big thing. We wanted it to be private and quiet, and we didn't even announce it for a year. But that was partly because, oh, well, I won't go into why that was.
Yeah. Well, because you still hadn't smashed the patriarchy.
It was to do with sort of, you know, family complications and the fact that we hadn't invited any of the family to the wedding, and we had to sort of be very strategic about how we announced them so that they wouldn't all get upset.
Oh.
Anyway.
We might have to move a little bit more quickly.
In 2011, we sold the bookshop. That put me into retirement, and that's sort of what we're going to be talking about later, about retirement and how you do it. And I suspect that lots of people in this room really are just as good at that as we are.
Or struggling just as much.
Because you're all here, you're involved in community, and that's my biggest tip.
Yeah.
Be involved in community.
Thank you. And we are going to move on to that straight away. But I think, Gail, I introduced you as a bit of a hero, and I think part of that is you've just given the living historical definition of what intersectionality is. So the big buzzword of the last few years is what you have been doing.
Yes, I think I was one
decades.
before I ever heard the word.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Thanks so much, Gail, and we'll move it along. I know that I have been a bit loose with the minutes, but really 4 minutes, Russ, that's a stupid amount of time for anyone to tell their story. If we can please bring it. I might have to pass the hat round for the parking fine. That's the only thing. But Schumann, if we can ask you to share your story, which being the youngest on the platform, you know, it works. Being the youngest on the platform here, you've got a slightly different story, and you've also come to Australia more recently. So could you please give it up for Suman Lahiry?
Thank you. I feel so honored to be here, and I acknowledge the landowners original. I am Schumann. I mean, I should start with my name, which means flower, and probably I was destined to write poetry. It's a Sanskrit name. My life is divided into Bangladesh, where I was born, and then to Europe, and then here in Australia. I was born in a quite difficult time. It was a war-prone zone of Bangladesh, fighting against Pakistani occupant force, and then a lot of Islamic fundamentalism, which as a Hindu I faced. It was the main news in the daily newspapers. It still is. And then there is huge hatred against gays and lesbians, extreme cruel homophobia. So, born in a very male-dominated, control-freak father's family, I took shelter in poetry, looking at the sky, and it's not that I write poetry, but it's that I live. I started living in poetry, because it's like a small cat curling in a corner with a book, or with my own thoughts and sexualities. I am a medical doctor with, I'm now doing my second PhD on mental health of queers, because it is very related to poetry, and my supervisors thought that what I should do, and it is really what at this age I have come to do what I want to do. But I have gone through a lot of phases, and not so much of ageism, but I would say racism, ableism, which is called ableism actually, emotional puritanism in different countries of the world, and all sorts of discrimination. So when I fight, if I can call me a fighter, I fight against every discrimination altogether. And because of my poetry, at my childhood, I felt like I'm old and I am more mature than others in terms of age. And interestingly, now that I am 52 now, I feel that my life has not started. Every day is my birthday. So age was kind of a bit differently came to me. And I think that is what my background is. Well, I also should say my stay in Norway, where there was a lot of snow falling on snow, and I felt that it's silence layering on silence, and very poetic. I mean, I find everything very, like all the music of poetry and everything. Friendship has a implicit poetry, and as I think Friedrich Nietzsche once said that he is a physician of culture and aesthetics of therapeutics. So I think poetry...
Sorry, aesthetics of?
Therapeutic.
Therapeutic, yeah.
Yeah, so in that way we heal, and we can deny the limitations of age. That's my kind of past.
Thank you so much, Schumann, for sharing that and the role that poetry has played in helping you be yourself and come to your queer identification and life. And now, you might have missed it, Schumann is a qualified doctor. I know we're a pack of oldies, don't hit him up for your bad back, all right? Just, give the man some space to breathe. So you mentioned about ageism. That's what we'll start talking about next, more as a group, about how it is to be growing older. But we still have two stellar members of our discussion group here today. Tom, can you fill us in on some of the details of your life lived to bring us to where you are today, I guess? You just need to push it up? Yeah. Yeah.
Is it up now?
That's it.
Yes. Okay. I started off in America, growing up in a very rural community, but my parents had always stressed the need to volunteer and give back. And so even in high school, I started in my volunteer career with American Red Cross as a volunteer there. And throughout all the time that I was in America, I was always involved in some type of community activity. And when I finally ended up in Dallas, which was a horror story, but totally different, I was on the board of the Dallas Gay Alliance for a number of years. And
Sorry, when was that, Tom? Like roughly what years?
that was the late 70s, early 80s. We went year by year from being legal to being illegal as the gay community. And each time we would pass a resolution through the voting system to legalize it, the anti-gay community would the next year put it back on the ballot again. And it was just a continual battle, which does wear you down, totally wears you down. And then I hit the pink ceiling at work and decided it was time to leave Dallas, and ended up coming to Australia, where I stayed with my partner, who we had met a couple of years before in Hawaii and had a very short holiday fling, and came down here and realized that everything I was looking for was here, and pretty much stayed. And that has been a really great experience for me. We're still together after, 37 years now. It's all been up and down.
Yeah. Oh, what, you're in a relationship?
Oh,
Yeah.
of course. It does not keep going up all the time. But you should know. Anyway, in my time here, I have continued to do my volunteer work. I started off on the board of Mardi Gras for a number of years, where I did meet Seymour, and was finding a community here that was really good. That moved on, and after a number of years, Kevin Golding from ACON called me and said, would I come and do a little bit of work for them, which ended up being a number of years. And then Kath Phillips in 2011 organized an organization called Mind Dog for people with psychiatric issues to have a service dog, and I did 9 years as treasurer for them. They just celebrated their 10th anniversary over the weekend and have moved on from having a couple of clients to now having over 1,600.
Wow.
So it's an organization that is encompassing the entire community, but looking at people who need assistance with a dog so that they can go out and be part of the community. I continue to look at things I can do. I still work part-time, which is a great thing for me. It's something that I enjoy, and it keeps me active, and we'll come back later on afterwards and go on the next part.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Tom. And I'm not saying there is a prize, but clearly if there was a prize for longest standing relationship, Tom, you're right up there, numero uno, very impressive. Inertia? No. Oh, no, that's not everyone's answer, just some of us, yeah. Seymour Hardy, would you please give it up for Seymour? And Seymour, tell us a bit about that story.
Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people on the land that we're standing, and to suggest that we all look up the First Nations application to Parliament to get a voice to Parliament. They need a lot more people to sign on for that voice to Parliament to happen, and it's available now until, I think...
June something.
Yeah, very, very soon. I mean, my recollection is fairly soon. Okay, I'm going to read because I'm not good at rambling. Okay. I've been with my partner only 30 years.
Yeah.
I do know Gail, I should say, because I've been to the feminist bookshop, and I do know Tom, so thank you very much for the times on the road together. Also, I'd like to thank Russ, because he's been instrumental in supporting me into this older phase, because, believe it or not, I've been in denial for a long time. I was a registered nurse. I'd stopped doing that, and they called me up again for COVID. Do you think I'm going to go to Melbourne for COVID? No. I'm also, I was a practicing commercial photographer, and I spent a long time, and my archive is actually the documentation of the queer community in Sydney. I've donated a lot of images to the Queer Archive in Melbourne, which I strongly recommend everybody do, especially the lesbians and the queers. You boys have got so much shit in your cupboards. It keeps coming out. And as a social documentary photographer, my archive is kept in the City of Sydney archives. Anyone can go to that and they can check those out. What else could I say? Yeah, that's number 2 answer. I was born to Catholic parents and had to go to Mass every single morning. So you can understand how I'm bent. I have suffered depression for a number of years, and that has moulded me to who I am today. Somebody who has always put the community first, because I believe in exactly what Tom said. Volunteering is a really important way of connecting with community and being part of it and getting the best out of it. So if you're not a member of some organisation that's queer or part of... Was that my sister down there? Hello, darling. I didn't know she was coming today. And she's just retired too. Anyway, back to the... Thanks, Joe. It's really important to be able to connect with other people who are like-minded as well. I mean, you can't start telling a story to a person who doesn't really get it. It's not going to happen. But I think if you have questions, you can ask me later.
Oh, beautiful, and beautifully timed too, Seymour. I do just want to thank each of you again for doing that, because it's not an easy ask to share your story to a group of people, not all of whom you know. We've got just about 15 minutes now, so we're not going to do the me kind of thing. I just want us to move, although that is what was on your name tag, Jessica, which is a great way of identifying. What I think we'll do now is just, so many of those themes have already come up in some of your first talks about what it is as we age that helps make us stay connected, that helps give life purpose. And so I don't know, can I just ask if you start, if you wanted to comment on that, some of you have already raised them, just jump in, grab the microphone and jump in. Or if you like, we can just go around and say statements, no? All right. Well,
What's the question?
oh, well, no, I can give a question. It's just we don't have time. Everyone only has like a minute. So what's your experience of ageing been like?
Oh, go swimming. Go exercise.
Okay, exercise. All right. Do we have a show of hands for exercise being a good thing? No. All right. Tom
This is a
staunchly against it.
participatory moment because you put your hands up. That's exercise.
And
Good.
I should have said we will also be coming to you for your questions after lunch. So this is all the
Don't believe her.
self-indulgent. Yeah. So any other thoughts on the experience of ageing? Yeah.
Volunteering, I think that it keeps you connected, and it doesn't matter whether it's art, theatre, gardening, hotted up cars. Don't care what it is. But a friend of mine said to me a couple of weeks ago, the secret is not chasing butterflies. It's build your garden and they come to you. So I think find what your passion is. Build on that, but give back to the community, even if it is looking after and making sure that the person down the road or the kid down the street isn't being abused or whatever. Get community involvement. We can do it even if we have disabilities and ill health. There are things that we can do either from home, but you're with other people, you're with like-minded people. Find your passion. Build on that.
Gail?
Well, all of the above. But get involved in something, whether it's social or educational or an activist thing. Not everybody has to be an activist, but find something that you love. I've been learning watercolour painting for about 30 years, and sometimes I still feel like a beginner, but I've loved the process of learning. I'm still in a class, I'm teachable, I still have teachers. So if you're interested in something, find someone who can teach you how to do it, but stay involved with other people. And
That's interesting, because learning feels like something that you're getting, but by being in a group of learners,
yes,
you're
well,
also giving.
I've not only have a teacher, I also have a group, and we've become friends, and we do things together outside of watercolour painting. So it's developing friendship and working on keeping your friendships going.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different tact here. 33 years ago, I became HIV positive, which for a long time was a stigma in our community. It has taken me a long time to admit this publicly. And the first time I did was with a small group of men, and I said, I hope that there's a whole lot of magic in this room because I'm going to need it to get through this. But HIV has defined our community for the past 3 decades. And we are survivors, and we are teachers, and we will continue to go ahead. So I think that rather than being a negative, it has now become a positive for my life to continue.
Wonderful. When I travel around, I talk to anyone, and within 10 minutes I share with them this epiphany. The reality of mortality. I used to preface that with, I know the day I die, and people would be horrified. They didn't even want to know when I died, let alone when they died. But the epiphany is valid for every living thing. And it's so simple. So if you can embrace this, and this is what I have done, and I share with everyone that I meet, within 10 minutes of talking to them, I tell them when they're going to die. But it's not to be afraid of. The reality of mortality is life is a death sentence. That's the reality. So, when will I die? I know the day and the moment. I didn't die yesterday, did I? I can never die tomorrow. And why is that? Because tomorrow never comes. It arrives as today. So, logically speaking, the only day I can die is today.
Not necessarily today, but today.
A today. It's not a date. So get out of your mind the date. So the reality of mortality is living, loving, laughing today.
Schumann, I feel you're one of the few people who can follow such a poetic description.
Yeah, it's really poetic, and
Yeah.
I'm so happy to. Roy told much better than me. I mean, what I wanted to tell. It's. I mean, everybody. I acknowledge whatever they said. That's my what I feel. But we can make a society which is like we have brought out books, which is not my book. It's the 52 people in Newcastle who write poems. Now we have a family. So we can make family, and we can get out of loneliness and all other discriminations. Thank you.
Thanks, Schumann. So I think we've come up with like if we can just condense. Yeah, Gail, please pass that down.
One more thought that I think is really, really important for all of us. Coming out is really, really important. You know, let people know who you are. And first of all, that's how you find other like-minded people, but it's also how acceptance grows. Like yesterday, I went to my hairdresser. I wanted to look nice for today. And of course...
You did a great job.
Of course, he said, oh, they always ask you, you know, have you got something special on? And I said, oh, well, tomorrow I'm talking on I'm giving a talk on a stage. And he said, oh, what are you going to be talking about? And I said, I'm going to be talking about getting old and doing it well. And he said, well, I think you are doing quite well. So I hope you think so.
Totally.
But coming out not just about your sexuality and your life, but even coming out about being old. I practically never tell anybody my age, and I don't tell people the date of my birth, because as soon as I do, they start treating me as old. And, well, that's ageism, and I don't want to be treated like that. So I do come out, but that's one thing I don't come out about.
Because that's really interesting, because do you come out about your age, Seymour? She does now because she's 66. Because I don't know, have others experienced that yet?
I do tell my age quite freely.
But that's because you look amazing for 103.
Thank you, Bernie, and my embalmer thanks you as well. No, the reason I do is because I work with a whole bunch of young people, and I am older than their parents, and yet we relate one-to-one quite easily. And I think that that's the joy that I find, is that I can be old working with young people as an equal, and that is a skill to learn.
That's totally a skill to learn. Yep, and then to Roy. Oh.
Age, what is it?
It's tomorrow. No, it's today.
There are 3 ages of the body. One is chronological, and you cannot change the day you were born. The other 2 you can affect. Biological and psychological. So Deepak Chopra wrote about this, if you want to read about more. So you could be a chronological age of 70, but feel that you're 40. And you can test that biologically. You just have to go get tested. So biological markers are the true age of your physical being. It's not the chronology. Some people look old at 20, and some people look wonderful at 60. How?
You look wonderful at 66.
Okay, guess how old I am.
Guess how old you are, Jessica? Anyone want to take a guess at how old Jessica is?
21.
Biologically, closer. No one want to guess? You can guess chronological, you can guess biological, and you can guess psychological. The biological and psychological is usually closer together. No?
I'm hearing some 60s. Is that chronological or? You're saying 90? Oh, higher than 60s, yeah. Well, you are, because the harsh light was falling on Jessica for, yeah, like, there's no secrets there.
I'll be 69 in September.
That's chronological. And psychological? Like a kid. Well, you were born again in 2009, effectively. So, yeah. Roy?
I'd just like to say that I am really proud of the age that I am, and I think that I owe it to the men who didn't make it through the epidemic. I owe it to their memories, and having worked within the HIV community for over 20 years, I have seen a lot of death. I've seen a lot of lives cut off short. And I am now at 73, and I am so really pleased. I've made it. I enjoy good health. I've just had a hip replacement. And that's fine. But I think be proud of who you are, be proud of what you've achieved, but think about the people that we all know, and all of us in this room have people who didn't make it to the age that we are now. And I think we need to be proud of that. We don't need to broadcast. I mean, I go to the gym every day and I look at muscles and bodies and
do you work out or just perv?
It's a bit of both. My jaw goes, and I have to wipe my chin occasionally.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I'm probably the oldest person at this gym that I go to in Lismore. But the cards that I got when I went in for my hip replacement and when I was in rehab, and all from people, I'm old enough to be their grandfather most of the time. And I just think, how bloody lucky am I that I am living this, and I'm living it well, and I'm in a place of privilege.
Beautiful.
And I think we give back.
Totally. And I just want to underline what you are saying there, and the fact that Gail brought this up about coming out not just about our sexual or gender identity. Age has been really bloody hard to front up to for me, partly because in the media, like it's very defining, and you just go, right, well, there's your cut-off date. But it feels like the more people, and we all have a role in this, the more we come out about being active, about being older, we're giving the same gift to other people coming through as people who came out as queer, like You were some of the leaders in that, but as people who came out as queer gave to us for quiz. So I feel much more comfortable now just being out about being 56 and a half. Because there are more and more people doing it, and it's something I can give.
And I think that if we see ageism, we need to name it with people.
Yeah.
The number of times that I stand in a shop and I've had younger people come in, they'll get served before me. I am at the point where I go, excuse me, and I look directly at them and I don't care what their gender is, and I say, excuse me, but I've been standing here longer and I'll probably die before you will. Do you mind if I get my transaction done?
That's great.
And sales assistants suddenly realise you're there.
Yeah.
And I think we need to fight ageism. The government sees ageing as a deficit. They see it as a cost. And yet, what's the average age of volunteers across the community saving billions? The average age of volunteers across the community is 56. Now, how many billions of dollars are we saving the feds and the states by the efforts that we're putting in the community? And we need to talk to our politicians. We're not sitting back. I'm not being gentle. Damn it, I name it. And I think we all need to do that.
And vote the fuckers out.
For that gentle last word. Hey, listen,
To replace them with what?
we've come to the lunch point now, unless someone desperately wants to throw something in now, because we're going to have a whole nother session after lunch. But I feel like we've come to a really nice place where we've talked about the role of ageing, where we've come from, and some thoughts on what makes a good bit of ageing. Now that I've kind of blown the structure by messing it all over the shop, we'll work out something else to do in the second half, and that will be much more about you getting to have your say and you ask your questions and give your thoughts. So join me in thanking... Did you want to say something, Russ? Yeah, well, but before you say something, Russ, join me in thanking our incredible panellists. Give it up for yourselves too, because I suspect, like our panellists, a lot of us are volunteers here today, and it is National Volunteers Week, so we should be feeling some love for ourselves.
Okay, I'm going to hand back over to Bernie now, and we'll get the afternoon swinging. So if you could take your seats, grab a cup of tea and take your seats, and we'll get going. Oh, okay. The hot water, you might just have to wait for 15 minutes. So you take a seat and then get up and grab one. Thanks, Bernie.
Russ, thanks, Russ, for that seamless introduction I was so ready for. Thanks, everyone. And what Russ probably just said, I was focused elsewhere, but yeah, it's really, this is our last session here. I totally went off track in the last one, so we're making it up as we go along. But I think in terms of improvisation, how is this little theatre troupe behind me pretty spectacular at making it up as we go along while telling truth, being authentic, connected to community, and living older, visibly aged. They're just ticking all the boxes here today. So what we're going to do now, there's a few issues that didn't get touched on that we just want to touch on first. We missed them at the start. And then we want to come to you for your questions. So it'll probably be about 10 or 15 minutes from now. So you're going to take over driving the show. So yeah, once I signal that, just be thinking of any questions you've got now and then just shoot your hands up a bit later on. But first, I did ask each of our panellists if there was something that they felt we hadn't really covered in this very broad topic of living older, visibly aged. Roy was saying, the aged care system. Gail was saying we need to look in more detail at how we actually look after ourselves. Schumann wanted to talk about poetry as therapy. Seymour went straight for the sex and sexuality. So let's get down and dirty with Seymour Hardy, who you will note, oh no, she's already packed them away. She's already picked up the gift packs from the stall over there, the dental dams and lady condoms. So she's well and truly got her eye on the prize. sex and sexuality was obviously a big defining part of life for us as we were growing up. Oh, you want a microphone to answer? Jeez, okay. Yeah. So sex and sexuality is a big part of our identities when we're younger. How do we feel about it older? Is it on? You got to push it up. Closer to where... There we go, yeah.
Okay, here I am again.
Is it such a big deal now?
Look, the thing is, people become even more invisible as they age in that department as well. So I strongly recommend a lot more masturbation. And that's something that people don't even do when they're young, you know, when they're younger. And I think Deborah over there definitely has an answer.
Oh, hang on. When you're not mic'd, we can't hear you. Yeah, masturbate, Judith Lucy. Got it. We'll come back to you in a minute.
Judith Lucy, yes.
Yeah.
Hannah Gadsby, yes. Ellen DeGeneres, yes.
So anything else to
what
offer?
question do you want to...
Well, I was just
how
saying...
to do it.
You were saying...
You should know
It's
by
like...
now.
All right, so masturbate is your solution there. Masturbate more often. Anything else?
No. You can find people to do it with.
What about libido? Because I have to tell you... what is
Yours
it?
is on the decline?
Oh, no, it's gone. What was menopause? Menopause, the rise of menopause.
Menopause
the
is a
drop
waste of energy, isn't it? Now, there are, there's an, what's her name? I can't think of a name, but she wrote a book called I'm Still Hot.
Right.
And a Sydney comedian.
Yeah, Jean Kitson.
Jean Kitson.
Right.
Excellent book to read. I had my bits whipped out because of fibroids, so didn't have to go through that process, and I'm very glad for it. So ladies in the room, get it whipped out.
Also, HRT can help, yeah. All right, okay, well, I feel like there's not much more to say on that, and I'm seeing a lot of squirming on the panel, so maybe we'll move on. Gail, you were saying about more detail on how we actually live older visibly and engaged.
All right, well...
How do you live older, visibly engaged? Get down to the details.
Well, just in one word, before I go into the detail, I will say stay physically active. Gym, sport, swimming, yoga, anything at all that you can do.
Walking the dog.
Walking, anything you can do to keep the body moving. Because it gets, like during the year of COVID, where I didn't do as much as I usually do, I really feel as if I did go a bit backwards physically, and I'm trying now to sort of regain that. But what I wanted to talk about in a few minutes that I have is being involved actively in community things, and the two that I'm involved in that keep me in touch with both younger and older people and with the gay community. I've been on the committee running the outstanding LGBTIQ short story competition for about 10 years, and that is an absolutely wonderful thing that you can participate in if you like, as a writer or as an observer through going to our Facebook page. And the other thing that I've been doing for a couple of years is I'm on a viewing committee that looks at the films that are going to be considered for Queer Screen.
Oh.
And this is a dream job.
Yeah.
Really.
Even better than Cheap Tuesdays. Yeah.
I get to look at films of my choice, and then I have to fill in an appraisal,
Review.
give my opinion. This is shit, this should be shown, this is fabulous. Say what I think about the film.
Have you ever considered being a professional reviewer with that knack you've got for really summing up?
No, that's never come my way. But it's an absolute dream. I just love it, and there's about 30 or so of us who do it, and our opinions get to count when you go to Queer Screen and see what's on. And so we get to see films in, all nationalities, and they're all queer films to some degree. There's, gay, lesbian, trans, whatever. Fabulous. So that's another way that I keep involved in my community, and I can do it from my armchair at home. I don't even have to go out the door to do it. So find something. I mean, you might not be as lucky as that, but
Yeah.
but volunteers are always wanted for everything. I mean, in fact, this film gig, they've just recently asked for more volunteers. So keep your eye open in the gay press, use the internet.
Or see Gail afterwards for...
Get on Facebook and find out what's around, because there's all sorts of opportunities to get involved in really, really great things where you are making a contribution and you're needed. And being needed is good for the soul.
Purpose is what keeps us going. That's right. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's having that sense of purpose. Now, Schumann, you were in a similar vein to what Gail was talking about. Gail's focused very much on the physical side of it, but also on being engaged in community. But your particular interest, which is we haven't heard a lot of, is poetry as therapy. So it's a way of using something creative, something expressive and emotional for our own mental health. So can you tell us a bit about how your group works and what you think it gives to people and what it gives to you?
Yes, thank you. I actually, when I started thinking of poetry rather than writing, or when I look into my PhD into mental health of queer people, I find that Australia is one of the highest model of healthcare in terms of mental health, because it's not only serving Australia, it's also serving middle and lower income countries. They call it LAMIC. But surprisingly, there is no service for queer mental health. Zero psychiatrist for the whole queer population, zero psychologist for the whole queer population, zero mental health nurse for the whole queer population.
So you mean there's no one who's distinctly, that's their particular role?
Yes, and also like gender diverse and sex diverse people want to go to a psychiatrist or psychologist or counselor or alternative who is a trans, who is non-binary. And that is totally not here. So through my poetry group, where we brought out the poetry books as an anthology for all the queer poets, and we call it a forum. And we found that it's also a mental health forum. And it's a way we can communicate with each other, we construct each other, we tell stories in moonlit night, and through that we find each other, refind ourselves. And that is the center. That is not our brain is the center, it's the self which is our center. And that through that we really have achieved cross-sectional age.
So it's a variation of age within the poetry community as well.
From 16,
wow.
As young as 16 to I think not 90, but near 90. G. Markel is a very famous poet who is near 90 now. Cannot go out, but very much with us.
So it's bringing together people of various ages, various identities, with a shared passion for poetry and need for poetry. Yeah.
And we think it's really medicine of culture.
Yeah.
All the cultures are amalgamated here.
Amalgamated together, yeah. Beautiful. All right, that's great. Thanks, because I think it helps to hear ideas of how people are doing things differently. And I guess one of the things, I just want to get to you now, Roy, one of the things with ageing, something that hangs over a lot of us is the idea of, what happens when we start to need aged care. And if we've been through it, I've been through it with my mother, and others have been through it themselves. So, Roy, you've had a long history from when you were less...
A bubby nurse.
Yeah, from when you... Yeah, well before you became entitled to receive aged care yourself. You've been very much involved in this. Can you talk us through your concerns and your thoughts on the issues around aged care for queers?
Well, I think that you need to be aware that on an aged care assessment, question 47 is specific to special needs groups.
Right.
And we are part of the special needs groups, along with returned service vets, Aboriginal and Islander people, care leavers, a number of people. But if you're doing a mental health an aged care assessment, the MAC website that can be a bloody nightmare. So try to do it via telephone. And before they say yes, we'll send out an assessor, you need probably 3 conditions where you're going to need support. Now, that's nowhere near... So it might be you need some domestic assistance, you might need your gardens done, you might need some assisted shopping, but generally 3 things. But question 47...
46 or 47?
47. Okay. Question 47, special needs groups. That's the one you draw the online person to, or the telephone assessor. And so make sure that they're aware of that, because mine didn't even know what the question referred to. And I had to direct them to the question. When
so they're going to ask you 46 other questions before they get to this one?
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare, but it's worthwhile going through. It is being looked at now and being reassessed, and that all comes out of Canberra. Government's a huge ship to turn. But don't be afraid to stand up for your rights, because if you are entitled to it, you get it. The other thing is that when they send
Hang on, sorry, just to clarify. So 47, we are special needs groups by being queer or trans... Okay.
Yep.
So, and that entitles us to these 3 things, or it entitles us to what?
You need 3 conditions to qualify. So it might be... I have a bad hip, I can't get down to clean my bathroom floor, so I need domestic assistance.
Okay.
I've lost my driver's licence, so I need some assisted shopping.
Yeah. You need no help shopping, look at you.
Well, when I was going to have my hip done, I wanted everything in place, so months beforehand. But also, when the assessor rings you and says they're coming out from the RAS team, Regional Assessment Team,
oh my God,
which is prior to the aged care assessors, ask them if the service that they're coming from has done the rainbow tick training. If they haven't, tell them you want a service that does. That is your right. There has been training out there for aged care services for over a decade. I helped write some of it in the Northern Rivers before it was ever functioning under ACON down here in Sydney. In fact, they thought that we were wrong, but we were funded by Uniting Care, I have to say, and Kelly Shields from the Northern Rivers. She found it in their business thing, and so we held them responsible. And so don't be afraid of it, but make sure that you're calm at the time. And if you're confused about it, or English isn't your first language, get somebody there with you to go through it, and you are entitled to have an advocate there when you're being assessed.
Okay, so 3 things. First of all, can we just see who has been through or is looking at going through the aged care assessment? Okay, all right. So the 3 takeaway things from this, what question is it that you're going to really be looking out for? Which number? 47. And what is important about number 47? Special needs. Okay. The second thing,
because we're vulnerable.
Yes, because we are vulnerable. And what particular training do they need to have had before you'll accept their assessment? The rainbow tick training. And the third one?
Well, that's what they need to do.
Also rainbow training. Silver rainbow training. Okay, so rainbow tick training and silver rainbow training. Okay. And wasn't there a third one, or is that?
Oh, you've got to have 3 conditions.
No, you can have an advocate with you.
Yes.
Okay, you can have an advocate with you. All right.
And also, I'd like to say, and follow up to Shumar's thing, we're lucky in the Northern Rivers because we have mental health social workers who are specialising in LGBT, and some of them are bulk billing. So we're lucky. So
Wow.
if you mightn't find a psychologist, but you may find a qualified mental health social worker to assist you, and so that's really important. I think, and I think that ACON would probably have a list of those, perhaps, who can recommend it.
We're going to move around to your questions now, and keep that microphone turned on and ready to address them. Does anyone have a question ready to kick us off? There is a prize for the first question. It's not a great prize. It's a plate full of Minties and Mentos, actually, delivered to you. Oh, here it is already. You've received that prize. Okay. Sorry, no, that's all right. What's your name, sorry?
Bryson.
Okay, Bryson.
I'd like to say to Roy that when you have that problem where you need to go into a shop and they ignore you, I find exactly the same problem when you go into somewhere like Woolworths or Coles or Aldi or something like that. The only place that looks after you when you're old is Bunnings.
Because they're workers. They have a
That's
positive,
right.
yeah.
And they always look after me in Bunnings. I went into Bingley one day to buy a DVR recorder, and anyhow I hung around and wandered around the store, and I thought, bugger it, I'm going to go out. So as I went through the checkout, I said to the people at the front desk, I was coming in here to buy a DVD player, but I said, nobody wants to serve me. And she said to me, oh, I'll get somebody for you now. Too late, love, too late. I'm going around the good guys.
Yeah.
So they do have a tendency, trying to get somebody to help you in Woolworths or Coles is, the only thing I can do now is go to the front desk and say to them, could you tell me where it is or get somebody to help me? And unless you make yourself known that you need help, they'll totally ignore you. Totally ignore you. But that's a good thing to say to them. I was before you. Please serve me, respect me and serve me first. Yeah.
Thanks,
Be your
Bryson.
own
And
advocate.
nothing,
Just be your own advocate.
Yeah.
And call it out.
and nothing will hurt Bingley more than, no, I'm going to the good guys. That's really digging the knife in. Yeah, you did. Yeah, all right. And we had another question around here somewhere. Yep. Oh, good. Yep, thanks, Sam.
Actually, it's two questions. The first
No,
one.
No, it's one question now, and then if everyone else has had a go, then it's a
Yeah,
second.
but the first one is just for information's sake. There is an older advocacy network called OPAN, O-P-A-N, and though it's for, everybody, this special group can still get assistance from them if you need them. It's O-P-A-N, and you can look it up on the network.
Is it a community group or government or?
It's a government, federal, and there is a national group trying to work out which plans are good for, or which packages are good for which people. And just like what Roy said, there is things like that.
So is it helping with aged care assessments, or is it
Yeah.
something more? Oh, that's great.
They can
Okay.
help you on everything from legal right, wills and whatnot. They'll sort of help you assist.
Great.
They're a great advocate.
Okay, so that wasn't a question, so you do get to ask a question now.
Okay, the other question, the question I like to throw it is, what do you think of that VAD, voluntary assisted death?
What? Sorry. Could you...
Voluntary assisted death, dying.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, we have a thought or two. Just
how
pass
long
it
have
along.
you got?
About a minute and a half, Roy. So
I am a supporter. I am a member of a network of other supporters. And I think it's something that we need to look very carefully at. It's now, in actual fact, it's coming up before the New South Wales Parliament, introduced by Alex Greenwich, in June. So it's a private member's bill, and I think that if you can get onto your local member of state parliament, lobby them beforehand to make sure that you know that your rights or your opinion is being voiced and that they're going to support it, if that's what you want. And I think that, I don't know whether you saw Laura's choice on SBS.
It's still on online, yeah.
Yeah, who left from Ballina and went over to Dignitas. The other thing too, I think that we need to be aware of, seniors' rights legal service as well. So if you're coming up against barriers, use the services that are there to assist us, and do not be afraid to openly mention your gender and your sexuality.
Great.
I think that's really important.
Coming out again.
They need to, well, it's just being authentic.
Exactly.
And I think we need to do that.
Okay, and as you're passing the microphone along, I will just clarify that's the Older Persons Advocacy Network, OPAN, and the other one you just mentioned is the Seniors Rights Network. Brochures are over here, Seniors Rights Service. Yeah, with their most attractive cover lady there. All right, okay, response.
I'd like to see how many people in the room have done their wills. Not bad, not bad. Because in that will, you've obviously stated the things that you want when you, or before you die, like making sure they turn off the respirator rather than leave you on there for 6 months. Or you'll have a pacemaker or not.
That's an advanced care directive, isn't it?
Okay. Enduring guardianship. But it can be attached to those papers.
Okay.
If you have an accident and something happens, they'll go to your last documents and things like that.
Yeah.
Make sure you let people know what your will is and things like that, because that's really, really important.
It is. In fact, I used to be on an advisory committee for New South Wales Health, and one of the things with people putting in their advanced care directives was that the doctors and nurses will always, regardless of what your directive says, they will, if the family doesn't want that to happen, they will always go with the family. So it's really important that we talk about it as much as we can, make sure that anyone who's going to be in a position to lobby for their interests above ours knows what we want. Roy?
Well, in actual fact, part of what you've said is true. The doctors and the nurses will
I'm a
react.
known liar, yep.
No. They will react because that's their first call. But the Advanced Care Directive, I had a doctor try to tell me a few months ago that it was not a legal document. It is a legal document, and the Supreme Court in 2019 upheld an Advanced Care Directive written by a Seventh-day Adventist gentleman that was written on the back of an envelope. There was an emergency hearing, and it's already in law now that it is a legal document. So New South Wales Health sometimes...
Yeah. Oh, this was some years ago as well. This is like 6 years ago.
So it has been upheld by the Supreme Court of New South Wales.
But still, the difference between what the Supreme Court says and what happens in practice, make sure that we are talking about it with people who are likely to be at the hospital when it comes to that time.
And take it into the hospital with you so that it's on your file.
Great. I think Jessica's... hang on. One.
Make sure if you have that you upload it on MyGov. There is a place there specifically for it. You can't fill it in on MyGov, but you attach it to that, and that will come up when you go into hospital and they'll look at your history.
And that's your enduring power of attorney or enduring...
That's the health one. Yep.
Advanced Care Directive. Okay, great. Thank you.
Bernie?
Yep.
So the question is, the Advanced Care Directive, what are the elements to make it legal? It has to be witnessed?
Yeah, it has to...
Over the microphone to Roy.
Sorry, there's a specific form which is available online. It has to be witnessed by your GP. Well, it has to be shown to your GP, and there's a statement in there that they have to sign it. And also it has to be signed by a lawyer. Get certified copies of it made, carry one with you along with the rest of your paperwork, but make sure that, as the gentleman said there, that it's uploaded. But most of all, if you're going in to have a procedure done, take it in, make sure that it's there, and bring it to the attention of the treating doctors.
Great, and we've just got a response here from someone in the industry.
It's very important for trans people that when you do die, your power of attorney takes over, not until you're dead. But you need also to sign another document saying that you must be buried in your chosen gender. Otherwise, your family can claim your body and bury you in the gender that you were born. Wow. Okay? It's legal for them to do that, unless you specifically say it. Okay? You must put that in writing for your power of attorney to follow that through.
Fantastic, thank you.
So I was in a situation where I thought, what happens in life? And so I decided that I would donate my body to Macquarie University, which means that if something happens to me, my body is just picked up and it goes to Macquarie University. That's it, end of story. I don't really have next of kin, so this was like a saving grace for me. I don't have to say, I look at my body and I think being transgender, that maybe medical science can learn something from it. But after doing this, what it made me realise was that every day, now I know what the end is, I can live every day because it's done.
Beautiful. Okay, and while we're just waiting...
Bernie,
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to make a quick comment. We're in the process of developing a toolkit for palliative care and end-of-life decision-making. And I think what we found from the community survey is a lot of people had heard of different documents but hadn't actually done them. So when everyone put their hand up for a will, the will was probably the most common document that people had. But there's other things in place like advanced care plans that I think people really need to sort of start to understand more and have in place.
Yeah, totally. And so that's what the toolkit will help
Yeah,
people.
the toolkit is all about kind of assisting people to know what all of those legal documents are to have in place. So at the end, it's as peaceful and as calm and amicable with everyone that it can be.
And the toolkit will be available from the ACON
Yeah,
website?
we've got an extension, so it's sort of July, August that we'll be looking at the rollout of that. And that will also create sort of, I think, more community conversation space to talk about what end-of-life planning is all about.
Yeah. Seymour?
That's a really good point, Russ. I worked as a palliative care nurse towards the end of my career. And one of the things that was available was nurses coming into your own home. And I specifically was capable and registered to give final medications to people. And it's really important that if you go with a service that comes into your home to deliver those sorts of things, that you feel comfortable with them. So keep it in mind. You don't have to think about it now, but when you've got the time, prepare for yourself, because at the end of the day, you don't want to have a service that comes to the house and just treats you like shit. Really do your research on those sorts of things.
And are there forums and groups where people can learn about this if they want to know more after today? You're nodding, Roy, but I'm not hearing the words.
Sorry. There is a toolkit online already through fax. And if you Google Professor Colleen Cartwright, she wrote one specifically for our communities. So they're available. And it's just, and you've got to update them. Don't fill it in now. Review it every year.
Gail? Yep.
I'd like to just change the subject slightly.
Before you do, Gail, I just have been pointed out that that pamphlet will give you the information and it's right here. Okay, sorry. Thanks, Gail.
There's a really big problem in our community, which hasn't even been mentioned at all today yet, and that is addiction. Drug addiction, alcoholism, addiction of many other forms. I'd just like to mention some community resources that are available that provide you with community support, living skills, understanding, and are very gay friendly, gay and queer friendly. AA if you're an alcoholic. Al-Anon if you are from a family affected by alcoholism, you had a partner or a parent or a son or a daughter or a sister or whatever, even a workmate that's affected you because of their addiction. NA if you're a drug addict. Overeaters Anonymous if you have a problem with food addiction. There's various others. They're all known as 12-step programs, and there are meetings online at the moment on Zoom. And another aspect of that is meetings for adult children. A lot of people in this room may not have had addiction problems themselves, but you may have grown up in an alcoholic family where you've been affected by the trauma of having a parent or a sibling who was an alcoholic. And it causes many problems, mental and emotional problems later in life. And you can tap into these 12-step programs at any time, any age, any time, and you'll be welcome, and you will also get an incredible amount of support and help. So just something to keep in mind that you might be able to use as a resource.
Thank you, Gail. And Linda.
Yeah, there's a community group called the Rainbow Recovery Club. That is the host for gay and lesbian AA meetings and other 12-step fellowships. You can find us online. We are an AA affiliated. We are not, we support AA groups. So there's actually quite a lot of gay and lesbian groups, sober groups, 12-step groups in Sydney. Talk to me afterwards or go online and find that resource.
What is it again? The
Rainbow Recovery Club.
Rainbow Recovery Club.
Thanks for that. I meant to mention Rainbow Recovery.
Oh, you did pretty well on name dropping. You did a very good job, Now, I have a question from someone who didn't want to be identified, but which I think is a really important one. I appreciate the advice so far, but what do we do about the disconnection from community that happens as we grow older? We don't have bars to hang out in with friends or to meet new people. And there's challenges within community, as some mentioned, where people are judgmental of others in various ways. Then there are those who are not partnered, not privileged enough to take the time to explore or volunteer. They have to work too hard. How do we reduce loneliness in these ways as we grow older? I think it's a big question or two in there, but it's absolutely critical. And I think a few of us have already said that we are privileged, all of us here today, and obviously a lot of us here are already feeling connected enough to know about this event, but there are a lot of people out there really struggling. So your responses to that?
I can just pass on one that I'm aware of is Meetup, which is an online umbrella. And all you have to do is type in what you're interested in, and you will most likely find some group that will either exactly match or come very close. And they're all very welcoming of new members, and they are social rather than financial or recovery type organizations. It's just an opportunity to meet other people in an area that you have an interest in.
So that's Meetup, one word. Is it Facebook? Is it a website?
It's an app.
It's an app. Okay, yeah. Meetup, an app. Yeah.
And it has hundreds and hundreds of different things, so you'll find something that will be interesting.
Oh,
can I have a go?
And there's gay girl ones, there's LGBTQ. In fact, there's a couple of guys I've just met, and I've introduced myself to them, and we're working on reducing isolation, working with people with mental health, and they run a barbecue where our rainbow thing is for the equal marriage in Chalmers Street. And I forget which day, but if you go to, oh God, I don't think of the group, but if you go on Meetup and have a look, it's called The Different Type of Gay. Now, there's mostly men in this group, but I joined and they're very welcoming. And what I've suggested we have is a rainbow shed. Not just a men's shed. I'm doing art at the moment, and I came out to a fellow artist yesterday when she asked me for coffee. So they've done that tick. But yes. So
How did the coffee go?
the coffee was there for ages. No, and she's said, I'll come to another art thing with me. So yeah, I'm coming out and all the time now where I can. But yes, and so this group meets once a month in Prince Alfred Park. And it's aimed at mental health, but closing the social, like not everyone goes to bars, not everyone feels confident, and some people have, 1 in 5 people have mental health issues within their life. I just want to do more in the community, so I had lunch with them in their home, their new home on Sunday, so I had a bonus. So yeah, and the other thing that on a personal level, I went into our local hospital for some serious health things in 2017. And I left my husband in 1996. I was continually called Mrs. The person that came with me, they assumed they were my daughter, and I was having serious stuff happening. I had no support whatsoever from any gay liaison person in our local hospital, and I had to come out so many times. And as I was just about to go in for major surgery, they still said, your daughter can wait for you out there. And it wasn't my daughter. My daughter wasn't with me. So there's ageism, and there's also lack of knowledge or training in our best hospitals just to have a gay liaison officer. I found a great gay guy when I was having my chemo, but prior to that, the girl had sort of said something. She called me Mrs. again and said, instead of saying, who is this, have you brought a friend with you? Have you brought someone to help you? It was like, oh, is this your mother? Is this your daughter? It was another hurdle and very painful. So if that could happen, more training in our local hospitals. The McGrath nurses are great, but they still slipped up. I'm in a support group, and I'm the only gay in the support group. And I told them the first day, and it's not quite been the same since then. But the new people that come, they're cool. Anyway, that's not for me.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your story. Yeah.
I haven't had my go. Okay. We all have our stories. And what I'll share with you now is how to deal with those stories. We live in a computer age. We live in the information age. So ignorance is only a choice. If you need help, ask. And ask better questions. People ask some of the most obvious questions, and that's why I wrote me on here, because I am me rather than you, so be me, because everyone else is taken.
Thanks, Jessica. Oh no, sorry, I didn't know.
I haven't finished yet.
Keep going, Jessica.
Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Your greatest power is your ability to choose what you want. The first thing is to find out what you want. And finding out what you want, you have to find out who you are. Start there. Life is an inner journey through outward experiences. All the knowledge is in here. Go there to find the knowledge. And once you find it, then live authentically. Early in the days of computer, G-I-G-O, do you remember what it stood for? Garbage in, garbage out. We've been lumbered with a lot of bad programs. That's the garbage in. And if you're living that garbage, that's your life. Let's put good in and get good out. Reprogram yourself. You are the master programmer now. Being an adult, being analytical, you can choose. Is this a good time to laugh or the good time to cry? We have one day, each of us. We get 87,600 seconds. How many of those seconds are you going to spend on anything that diminishes you? It disempowers you, frustrates you. Sort it out. I live intentionally. Every day you wake up, it's another day above ground. Much better than the alternative. And if you can't get out of bed, without leaving behind blame, excuses and denial, stay in bed until you can get out and live with authority, responsibility and respect. It's your choice every day.
Thank you, Jessica. Did you want to add something, Seymour?
I can never follow that, Jessica.
We can come back to you if you like, because we've got another on it.
Look, I think what you're saying is really important, because I think in my own experience, every day is a challenge and every day you have to reset the clock again. It's not like it's the same. And we are such trailblazers. All of us in this room are trailblazers. We've done things just to be alive. I'm so pleased to see the trans gang over there, because they definitely do a lot more than we do, because the discrimination against you is immense. I mean, we as white folk are definitely privileged, so thank you. You know, it's kind of so important, and I feel privileged to be up here with these people. But I think what Jessica is saying particularly is that we all have those inner turmoils, we all have those struggles. We just have to acknowledge and move on.
A better question to ask: are you a thermostat or are you a thermometer? Put your hand up if you think you're a thermometer.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, I'll explain to you why. Because a thermometer is measuring conditions, right? It goes up and down as the weather. A thermostat is set, so no conditions will change the thermostat. Be a thermostat. Set your core beliefs. And my intention is to live every day, because this is the only day I have. If you're not happy today, what are you waiting for?
How many thermometers have we got? I'm a thermometer. I'm aspirational. I would like to get to thermostat, but it is a daily... Oh, it's a choice every day, every moment of every day. Yep.
Just following on from what you've both been saying, I think that sometimes for some people it is really difficult to get out of bed. And I acknowledge that, and I've worked with people that that's been true for. You know, their big days to get out and have a shower. And that's all they can manage for the day. But I think that if you work out what attribute got you through the day before, what skills did you draw on when you were really facing challenges in the past? And try to think about that, as difficult as it is, and just think, well, okay, I can get out of bed now, I can have a shower, I can clean my teeth, I can go shopping, I can ring Betty and see how Betty is, and I can ring Joe and see how Joe is, and get support from around you, because you mightn't be strong enough within yourself, but you can build that resilience over a period of time.
Okay, we are running so out of time, so can you say it in 10 words or less, Jessica?
I can say it in 10 seconds or less.
Perfect, go for it.
Now you've made me forget what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm so sorry, because we've got one last question I want to get to as well.
Ask your question, I'll think of it.
You will, I'm sure you will. Julie.
Oh, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Julie. I'm a mental health professional, accredited mental health professional social worker, who currently works in health and used to be a nurse a long time ago. So it's great that I finally found this place, because I got lost. Anyway, I just want to say, if you are having any problems, reach out, okay? Reach out. Whatever it is, reach out. I've worked in mental health, and I'm still working in mental health at present for the last 7 years. I can tell you, if you are gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, whatever your decision, ask for the gay, lesbian person on the mental health team. I'm one of those people. There are people out there that do work in health that genuinely want to help. And there are some people that are just plain annoying. So I'm not one of those, I hope. But I'm here today, and thank you to all the speakers. It's been great. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. So when you said reach out, do you mean when you're in an instance at an institution or getting in touch? Yeah.
So when I say reach out, if you're at home and you've had something horrific happen to you, which it can happen in a second, I've seen it, I've been there. It can happen to you very quickly. Reach out, okay? Reach out. I mean, if you're feeling suicidal. I mean, if someone's just died and they're the one you love. I mean, if someone in your unit has just jumped off a building. I'm talking about if you are thinking these things, reach out. There are people available.
Where do you go?
Well, so I just say reach out because often what happens in those situations is people isolate. Once you isolate, then you feel you have no one. Okay, so it's to initially break that. Okay, and then if you reach out to your local mental health team and ask for the gay and lesbian person, mental health worker on the team, you will find someone.
Great. Thank you very much, Julie. Okay, so Beyond Blue, Lifeline, local mental health care team, grief counselling.
There's an aged mental health team, New South Wales government. So if you ring the mental health hotline, you ask to go through to them, and they'll do a visit to the house. So you not only go there, but they'll arrange permanent visits to you, and even doctors will come to your house. So it's there, it's available, but you need to ask for the right ones.
Perfect. Thank you. David?
Hang on, I remember.
Okay. Quick.
Ask a better question. The purpose of life. Simple answer. You find your purpose.
Oh, I so want to end on that note, but David.
Just a quick comment about people reaching out if they're not feeling well. Quite often people are feeling so ill well that they don't think about reaching out.
Any thoughts then?
What do they do then?
What do you do if you're not feeling up to reaching out?
Well, sometimes you have a neighbour. My question is that is true for a lot of people, and that's something that we need to discuss, especially in this community. That is true for a lot of people. And as you get older, ageism is alive and well, which is very unfortunate. What I do say to you is, do you have a neighbour? Do you have someone you see every day? Just one person that you can say hello to. There you go. There you go. Someone. And if you don't have anyone, get some numbers while you're here today.
Thanks, Julie. And last question. Yep.
So, being part of the trans and gender diverse community, and I know that this is an LGBTQI plus event, I'm asking you as allies that we do have another layered thing that faces us, whether it be our voice, that we get read wrong. The forms, I know you said reach out, but the forms are not there. We have staff that's in mental health. So I'm not going to reach out if I'm going to get triggered. So it's about education. And at the moment in our community, we're pushing for law. We're pushing for change within the medical system. And we need everybody not to be complacent, but to still keep fighting. And the big picture is it will roll over for all of us, whether it be in a rainbow retirement home with rainbow staff. I don't know how it's going to work, but we need to fight for it because I just don't want anybody coming to my aid. I'm sorry, but that's the next stage. So please support us when we put out over the next 12 months.
So how can we support you?
Basically, things are going to change. It's showing that you will hold space for us and just think, oh, well, that's not my battle, that's not my challenge. That you recognise that we have that extra layer of which ward do we go into, Just not even, I can be on a phone where my voice has been recorded, and because my voice tone changes in the morning, I'm not read. So all of these things that we need to change in a system. So I just don't want us to be complacent. It's just really, we're all trailblazers, and we've all got that little bit of fight in us. So let's, we're fighting for this. Let's fight for the whole package.
That's great. Thank you very much. That's pretty much it. It's wrappy-uppy time. We were going to have some last words from our panel. Does anyone have anything they would like to leave with? Obviously, we all have something. Final words and here we go. Yep. Move it across.
Final words.
Yep. Elders, wisdom of the elders. Seymour, what do you got?
I think the reach out is important. I think, we do feel isolated every now and then, and even in relationships you can feel isolated or lonely. So, make sure you've got a couple of friends you can call. And the one thing I was going to say was, never feel you can't ask for help. We've been taught to be self-reliant, but we need to ask for help.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with everybody almost. And I just want to add just one slogan type of thing, which is love life, love queers, love poetry.
Love. It was always elusive until I made my own acrostic. It started off as living one's values every day. It's evolved to living one's vibrational emittance. Vibrate what you want.
I think the thing I want to share as a final thought is that the first step is the hardest. But once you take that first step, you can learn to run. And if you learn to run, you can encompass the whole world.
Find a way to participate in your community, particularly your queer community. Keep your body active and look after your emotional and mental health.
I'd like to see a seniors revolution. we have just recently had an extremely expensive Royal Commission into Ageing. Contact your federal member and hold them accountable for the decisions. And I think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that I may identify as a cisgendered gay male, but I need to be cognizant of the fact that not everybody comes from that privileged position, and we need to understand the nuances of diversity, and we need to hold the people that we elect responsible for their decisions. So go online, poke the bear.
Start the revolution, poke the bear. I'm just going to add my junior 2 cents worth at the end. As someone who's also had to deal with mental health issues most of my adult life, the one thing when it's too hard to ask for someone else, when it's too hard to reach out to someone else, go find something living. If it's just sitting with a plant, looking at the grass, ants, whatever, a dog, just being with other life, going about its business, for me, is the most grounding, incredible thing there is, and you can always do it unless you're in solitary confinement, I guess, but I haven't been there, thankfully. I feel incredibly privileged to have met and heard the stories of and thoughts from and responses from all of our panellists here today. I'm so thankful to all of you for coming out on this glorious day to share stories, hear stories, ask questions and meet and connect and stay active, staying older, engaged and visibly active and gorgeous. So thank you very much. Thanks for making me feel welcome, and thanks Russ, and congratulations to the Love Project. I hope it goes well.
Us. the volunteers for feeding us.
Oh, the volunteers.
Thank
Give it up
you.
for the
They
volunteers.
set up the room. They've done it. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, fellow panellists.
I meant to say that.
I think Roy's just done what I was just about to say, so I'm out of here. Look, just quickly, yes, I want to thank the volunteers, the two Dans in particular, because they came and helped yesterday to load up the cars to get here. But it makes a world of difference and makes it a lot easier to do these things. So I really thank all of the volunteers. The advisory group, just one more time. I just want to quickly talk to, if you feel like you want to be part of the community advisory group for the funding that we have for the city, from the City of Sydney, please give me a call, email me, let me know. We are at a stage that we're about to go into our second funding year. It's not a huge amount of money, but I want to stress that I want to try and get a more diverse group on the advisory group. So we really represent Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, people living with disabilities, trans and gender diverse communities. We really need to see everyone's faces and hear everyone's voices on that advisory group. So let me know if you want to be a part of it. What else have I got? I've got a little gift for Bernie.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you very, very much. There's that. And if I could get Dan to start grabbing a plant off the table, that can go to Seymour. And
that is such a great idea.
And Suman. And Jessica-Su.
It's a good call because I can't be trusted with living things. So,
well, look, I do. Tom and Roy and Gail. And I didn't get a chance to actually print out some evaluation forms for those that mightn't be able to do it online, but in the next day or so, you will get an evaluation emailed to you. So we'd really like your feedback, as always, about the event, any other suggestions. It always helps. As much feedback from the community about what we can do, how we can do it better is always appreciated.